Nice to see you here for Lesson 12. Congratulations on arriving here, as this is the final lesson. Before we get started, let's review an important point from Lesson 11. Everyone prefers to be respected by others, but to get respect, we have to give it. That's the rule. And this is where manners come in. Manners show the world two things. One, you respect others. And two, you respect yourself. So here we go with Lesson 12. Together, you and your mentor read the first part of a story called The Slingshot. In this lesson, we will read the remainder of the story together. As you listen and read along to my voice, try to see the story like a moving picture in your mind. Here we go. The Slingshot, Part 2, by Marcus R. Beasley. By the end of the hour, most of the cans they'd been able to find laying around this corner of the battlefield were completely bent and twisted, or lost in the grass on the other side of the fence. And they had used up most of the small stones that were close to where they'd dropped their bikes and started shooting. They decided to split up and spread out in order to look around for other stuff in the field that they could shoot at, and to find more stones they could use as ammunition. After only a few steps, Holden discovered a half-buried 7-Up bottle in the dirt, and although it would be pretty bad to break glass in the field, he knew it would be fun to see the bottle explode when either he or Bo blew it apart off the top of the fence post. As he lifted it out of the soil, Holden turned to show Bo. It was then that Holden saw Bo still standing not far from the fence, his slingshot stretched back in shooting position. Holden looked further down the fence and saw what Bo was aiming at. A small brown hawk had perched atop one of the fence posts, luckily one of the posts a bit further away than they had been using for the cans. As Bo took aim, all Holden could do was to hold his breath and watch Bo release the stone in the bird's direction, followed by a huge sigh of relief to see that Bo had missed the feathered target. Holden liked animals, and he would never have considered shooting at one, but he honestly was not that surprised that Bo would do it if he had the chance, always wanting to seem wild and dangerous. And while Holden didn't care about nicknames and 20-step rules, he did care about living things. The young hawk curiously turned its head at the swishing sound the passing stone had made, but he wasn't actually startled by it, and so remained relaxed atop the post, remained unaware that he had barely escaped disaster, and stood completely unaware that he remained Bo McCoy's target. Holden saw Bo looking frantically around for another stone, of course planning on firing another sizzling shot as soon as he could reload his weapon. The slingshots sort of were weapons, Holden realized, having seen them only as toys until now. Holden thought quickly, and picking up a stone that was fortunately near him on the ground, loaded his own slingshot and fired in the direction of the young hawk, though deliberately shooting low and striking the post upon which the bird sat. Holden was sure that either the sharp cracking sound or the vibration would startle the bird and send it flying off. And since Bo would have no idea that he had missed it on purpose, the bird would be saved without Holden having to argue with Bo about right and wrong, which Holden knew was hard to do with friends and probably would be pointless anyway with Bo. But the hawk remained. Holden was frantic now as he could see that Bo had somehow found another rock and was taking aim for his second shot. "Hey, Bo, look what I found!" Holden yelled loudly, hoping that he could distract Bo with the raised glass bottle and either make Bo miss the shot or turn his interest away from the bird. It didn't work. Bo fired. but miraculously missed for a second time. The hawk heard the swoosh sound again, closer this time, but did not understand what was happening. And as young creatures often do, the hawk had apparently become frozen with confusion. Holden had already tried to warn the bird off, then had tried to distract Bo. Neither idea worked. Bo was already looking around for another stone. Holden hurried over and stood next to Bo, casually grabbed Bo's shirt sleeve, and suggested the only thing he could think of. "Let's back up, Bo. This is too easy with these slingshots. We're too close. Come on, let's shoot from over here." Over here was another 10 or 12 steps further away from the innocent young hawk, and Holden figured that Bo couldn't make a good shot from that distance. Holden wouldn't even be trying to hit the bird, but would shoot a few rocks and pretend otherwise. Bo impatiently refused, jerking his sleeve out of Holden's light grip and simultaneously noticing another stone on the ground that he could use, an almost perfectly round and slightly larger one that could be counted on to fly straight and hit hard. Bo snatched it up, hurriedly rubbed some dirt off of it and onto his pants, and then fumbled to center it into the rubber strap of the slingshot. Holden was now feeling anger toward Bo for what he was trying to do, hurt a living creature for fun. But there was no time for anything but action now. The young hawk was moments away from injury, probably death. Holden had had enough, and there were no more tricks he could use to stop Bo. Bo was too big for Holden to physically challenge. That was out of the question. He realized what he would have to do. Holden would have to help the hawk by positioning himself so as to block Bo's next shot, to be a human barrier between Bo and bird. In the moment after Bo had properly pinched the perfect stone into the very center of the rubber strap, but a moment before Bo could pull it back to its full force stretch, Holden stepped forward into the line of fire, his back turned to Bo. Bo, like the young hawk, was at first confused and frozen, struggling to imagine what was happening. He couldn't take the shot since Holden was in the way, and as Holden was walking directly away from him toward the bird, no shot was even going to be possible. "Holden, get out of the way!" Bo ordered, but Holden continued walking in a straight line toward young hawk. Finally, Bo understood that Holden was doing this on purpose, and despite Bo's rising verbal scorn, Holden held himself within the invisible line of fire between the bird and Bo, and continued marching toward Bo's intended target. Animals seem to know which humans are of a kind nature and which are not, and the young hawk watched as Holden approached without any concern. Holden and the bird stood inches apart, looking eye to eye, momentary pals through trust and innocence. Holden gently reached up to the top of the post, slowly cupped the hawk in his hands, and said goodbye. The hawk seemed to understand and rested quietly for just a moment as Holden outstretched his arms and pushed the bird up into the air. The hawk gently launched from his palms and flew high into the sky, squawking once. It never knew what had been happening in this field as it stood atop the wooden fence post, nor that Holden was the only reason it was still able to fly away home. This story happened to Holden Beasley a little more than 3 years ago. He's in his first year of high school now. Holden has not been to the battlefield since that day, although he and Bo continue to quietly wave hello when they see each other going in and out of their next-door neighbor houses. Their friendship didn't really hold together after that day. Both of them knew it wouldn't. Holden had not given the matter much thought over the years, except to admit to himself that Bo had always pretty much been the same at school as he was that day at the battlefield. Mean. Holden was not mean, and his friendship with Bo was probably sure to end unpleasantly one day, just as it did. As time passed, Holden had really thought much more about the young hawk than he had Bo, and he often wondered what would have happened if Bo had actually hit the bird with the stone that day. Bo might have made a better first or second shot than he did. Holden thought that he probably would have picked up the bird and taken it to an animal doctor if hurt, buried it if dead. He was glad that didn't happen, because he cared about all living things. He was also glad that he had decided to try and help the bird instead of just watching Bo shoot until he got it. Late last year, in the 8th grade, Holden's favorite teacher asked the students to write something about how kids could help other kids who were being bullied. They didn't have to do the assignment if they didn't want to, but Mr. Pavel really didn't seem to have any ideas of his own and really wanted to help. So Holden sat down at his bedroom desk that night and wrote the story you just heard, changing the boys' names for secrecy. And he added a note at the bottom. Dear Mr. Pavel, you're probably wondering what my story has to do with bullying. But that's what it's all about, really. You'll see if you just do this in your head. Turn the battlefield into a soccer pitch or maybe a baseball field. Then turn the hawk into some kid who's new to the school. He's like the target for the mean guy. And then think that the stones are insults and lies and threats, like bulliers always tell. See, just like Holden and the hawk in the story, the nice boy would still try to warn the kid or to distract the mean one. And then at the end, the nice boy would be a barrier for the new kid by like putting his hand on the new boy's shoulder, turning his back to the bullier, and quietly walking with him straight off the soccer pitch, away from the insults and lies and threats. It's all the same, really. I hope this helps you. Signed, Anonymous. Without putting his name on it, Holden quietly and secretly turned it in. The story got published in the student newspaper and got published again in the parent newsletter twice. His mom saw the story and made him and his older brother sit down and listen as their dad read the story out loud to them one night, telling them that they should both take a lesson in courage from such an amazing boy, whoever Anonymous really was. Holden smiled secretly. He didn't want credit for writing the story. He was already feeling as good as he ever had. That night, he slept peacefully and deeply, and dreamed that he was the little hawk atop the fence post that day, looking back into Holden's warm eyes. And then he was flying. The end. And then the author finishes the story with, this story is dedicated to my incredible little brother, Holden, the coolest kid I have ever known. Marcus R. Beasley. What I noticed in this story is that Holden is unusually brave and unusually full of compassion. In my life, I've seen that many kids will either do nothing or will watch and laugh when an animal or a kid is being treated badly. They don't have bravery or compassion. Some kids walk away and tell an adult if they see someone being mean like that. They have compassion. Walking away is good because it tells a bullier that you don't like what they're doing. A few kids will either try to distract the bullier or get between the bullier and walk away with the other kid. They have both bravery and compassion. Holden did this, but he did not confront Bo. Did you notice that? He ignored Bo and focused on helping the target of Bo's meanness, the hawk. That's the right way to do it, because Holden didn't want the bullier to attack him. I would be proud to think that you and your friends are the kind who would for sure walk away and tell an adult. Just doing that shows compassion, and even some bravery too, really. The work you've been doing with your mentor on figuring out your personal code has already helped you wake up to your own compassion. Of course, you'll have to act out your code, not just create it. But opportunities to act out your code are all over the place. Things like using manners, following class and school and at-home rules, doing something the first time you were asked at school or at home, helping someone who's upset, etc. You'll see that these opportunities are everywhere once you start using your personal code. There is one last affirmation you will need to repeat to yourself after this lesson. Here it is. I choose to help others when they need what I've got. We're done. It's been great working with you. Take care of yourself, respect yourself, and keep those thought knots away using your code and your affirmations. Goodbye.